Hello.
Greg, how you doing?
I'm pretty good, yeah. Try and get my head in there.
That's all
So,
right. A bit of
uh,
bit of resize on the screen. Perfect. You're well?
yeah, I'm good. Yeah, sit back. That's it. So it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Just kind of day number 2,350 of lockdown at the moment, it feels like.
So what's the magic date from your side then? What do you think?
Um, I don't know really. I mean, it's hard to sort of get golf back before schools, I would have thought, but at the same time, there's a big argument for golf that it's pretty
Yeah.
safe. And I think, like anything really, if people are just pretty sensible about it, then a lot of things can be safe and put in procedures in place, booking systems for golf, for ranges, for that kind of stuff, making sure, like say, if you're on a range, if you've got 25 bays, you've got 25 people there, same as a golf course, two balls, 10-minute intervals, only turn up to play. It's a pretty good method to kind of keep people separated, if you like.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it's like I say, it's a big argument. A lot of clients I know as well for sort of mental health, just wanting to get out. I mean, some people that
Yeah.
I know might be a case of they live on their own, and if they went out for a walk, then they're not too fussed. But if
Yeah.
someone said, "Look, you can get two games of golf in a week," they'd jump at it and be much better for it. So, how about
Yeah.
yourself? Have you still been busy, sort of touring around and going to all the
Yeah,
courses you go to?
it's been interesting actually because when lockdown one came in, we're calling it all lockdown one, two, three
Yeah,
now. But when when it came in the end of March, it felt the whole world stopped.
mm.
That's how it felt to me. I had management agreements, so I was still going out in lockdown one, but nowhere near to normal.
Mm.
But in that period, I remember driving around the M25, M1, being the only car on the road. It felt like a sci-fi movie. The world had stopped.
Mm.
And then when the second one came in November, that was weird because I'm
Yeah,
expecting everything to stop again. It just carried on. Yes, things were shut, golf was shut, but things just generally carried on. And then this one, is pretty much, it's not on a par. It's not far away from lockdown one, but again, the roads are just packed. I mean,
yeah, it's kind of in the middle of the two, isn't it, really? I mean, like I say, the first
yeah,
one just felt apocalyptic. Looking out the window here, we're close to a main road, and it was just, you could stroll down. It was like Christmas Day. You could stroll down the street. There's no one really on the road, a
yeah,
few people out walking, and that's about it. Like I say,
yeah,
November one felt a hard sort of pill to swallow a little bit for us. I can imagine a lot of golf coaches in the industry being like, well, hang on a minute, there's loads of people that are out and about, but
yeah.
we can't work. We're not able to do anything.
No, no,
Um, and
yeah,
again, from my point of view, the one we're in now is obviously the most important one for the fact of how the numbers were going and what was happening.
yeah,
So hopefully, like I say, once we're out of this one, with a bit of luck, we can all get a good run at it. Golf can get a good run at it, and we can all
yeah.
get cracking, and hopefully we get a decent spring this year rather than
Oh
going
yeah,
from flood to drought last year, which I'm sure, like I say, we'll chat about. But a lot of golf courses we already
yeah,
struggled with.
yeah. I mean, I think the November lockdown, this one, there's been a bit of furloughing going on with teams, but it hasn't been too bad. And also, it's been a lot of projects on the go. Whereas
Hmm.
the first one, everything stopped. Everyone panicked, everyone stopped, rightly so, and no one really knew what was going to happen. It couldn't have come at the worst time of the year, the first one, because golf clubs January and February get very tight on cash. You
Hmm.
sort of limp into the next renewal period.
Hmm.
So at that point, when lockdown one came, golf clubs were really panicking because obviously you're sort of running out of money in effect,
Hmm.
and then you're asking for memberships with no one knew when you're going to be coming back. So it couldn't have
Yeah.
happened at a worse point for golf clubs at that point, especially coming off the back of a terrible winter. But I think the big thing I've seen, I don't know about you, Todd, but the the sort of community spirit when the
Hmm.
first lockdown came in, and it was like almost like we're not going to let our golf club go under here, and
Yeah.
the renewals just came in, like high renewals. You wouldn't expect it. Everyone, and that really surprised a lot of people, I think, and a lot of people running golf clubs, and I think pleasantly surprised people because I don't think they appreciate that, but also I think it hit home actually. Your core membership is what it's all about, and that's why a golf club is there really. So it really hit that home. But it's been an amazing ride since then because
Yeah.
golf's just been booming. I mean, absolutely. Any time it's been open, it's just been carnage out
Mm.
there. I mean, you just cannot get a tee time. just going for it, you know. So it's just been mad, really.
And I remember the same thing, like when I did a stint of greenkeeping at the Neville for a year and a half or so. And when the course is busy, and like we'll get into it, but it's hard. You're out on a ferry mower and you're trying to cut some fairways, and you got to pull to the side, another group pull to the side. You barely do sort of one run before you got to stop again. It's all of a sudden then all your general maintenance takes that much longer as well.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I worked it out in the first lockdown with golfers not out there. You save about 40%, or you gain 40% in productivity, basically. So, you know, but saying that, we need golf out there because it's a business. So it just shows you though how productive you can, you know, with just things like markers not on the on tee markers not on the tees, not having to take the flags out. You know, as soon as you hit golf, your productivity levels collapses. So it's been from my side, you know, going to lots of courses and speaking to, you know, not just greenkeepers, but general managers, you know, directors, committee guys. It's been a very interesting process. And, you know, I don't like these things, you know, that's the wrong thing to say, but I always find these things quite interesting. And I you know, I enjoy the data stuff and, you know, seeing how the governments and the thing I just, you know, I can't work in my head. I'm not an economist at all really, but I just don't know how did you get, you know, how do you go into 400 billion pounds worth of debt and then still function? I just, you know, and I'm so fascinated to see what happens now over the next, you know, probably decade, to see how these countries and governments and businesses adapt and all that sort of stuff. I find it very interesting, that side of it.
Yeah. And I think, like I say, we were talking about golf sort of going really busy and memberships going up as well. I think one of the things that came in from lockdown one was the kind of importance again of being a member potentially of a private members club, because all these clubs where you could normally nomad golfer go and pay a green fee, we'll jump on here at the weekend, you couldn't get on, because now all of a sudden the course had been closed for a while and they had to sort of look after the membership first. So then there became a big premium on becoming a member of a private club as opposed to necessarily being a nomad golfer. So I think that pushed a lot of people into membership.
I think that's hit home. I think, you know, a lot of golf clubs didn't realise, actually, I've been saying it for years, that every golf club, or most golf clubs, not right, most golf clubs are chasing new members. You know, that's all. You know, you come to this time of year, it's all about, you know, how many we're going to lose and how many can we gain. And I think golf clubs lose sight of, actually, you know, we've got 600, 700 members already there. That's your captive audience. You know, that's your number one priority, basically. And I think that has really been hit home right now, because they've realised that. And also, you're right. I mean, my nephew's only sort of young 20s, and he's not a member anywhere, and he couldn't play golf. He loves golf. Couldn't get on a golf course. Even the public courses were packed, and couldn't get any time. So it's it's been very interesting. And you know, I've got clubs, you know, waiting lists big time gone in now. I've got joining fees coming back to some clubs. So it's all positive to me. And I was speaking to a committee member today, actually. This is a big opportunity for golf. You know, this is a once in a lifetime thing, because, you know, we've been waiting 30 years for almost this, really. So this is a big opportunity for the industry to get it right. Get it wrong. This could be, you know, this is a tilting point. I think a lot of golf clubs are right in that nervous position where, you know, you've got to get it right, really, because, you know, for survival.
Yeah, I think, like I say, everything's just brewing and brewing and brewing. And I think to a degree as well, this second or third lockdown now, so for some clubs which are going to sort of like drainage and water issues, actually helped a couple of clubs, because it's the government closing the golf course rather than them having to do it, to keep sort of membership and to keep people happy a little bit, and to do some projects in this time for drainage work. Because I think golf now, I mean, I think back to when I was playing like winter leagues and stuff, or frosted mats where you're falling over with a concrete base, and you got a temporary green over to the side, but it's just a bit of area cut down with your bucket holes and stuff. And because you're out there trudging around, you're happy. But obviously now the product is so much better, and more maintenance and more protection needs to go into keeping that product better as well. So I think winter golf now, one, expectation is higher. I think a lot of members want a golf course that for 12 months a year they could put in a handicap qualifying card on. But at the same point, golf clubs have got to adapt to that and try and do what they can to stretch out their playing season.
No, I agree. And this is another challenge for golf clubs, because, you know, you've got to get, the problem I'm finding with the world these days is the weather patterns are extreme. So we seem to go into really hot, real severe heat, dry periods. So you need a very good irrigation system at that point. And then we go into, heavy rainfall, and then you need a good drainage system. And, both of those things are, huge sums of money. And that is a big challenge for golf clubs, because, that's the investment side. And, a lot of the golf clubs just haven't got the money to get both of those things right. They tend to do the irrigation first, get that solved. That then deals with the summer period. But then they've got the drainage issue, which is as big, if not bigger, problem to solve, because the harder thing with the drainage is it's out season, so it's quite hard to justify the money sometimes on that, the payback. But members are demanding, aren't they? They're demanding longer playing season and better playing seasons, basically. So
no, different. And like you said, the hard thing about it is the better make your drainage during the winter, the drier your fairways get during the summer. So then it goes into, irrigation, fairway irrigation, all this kind of stuff. And there's a lot of courses. I know, like say in the last year, 18 months, it has been extreme. And also I think a big thing with it is coming into stuff like, you have a winter where the water sat for 5 months, then you go into this real drought period where it's very warm, and rather than having that spring where all the grass has kind of grown through and you've got your nice lies around the greens, you get a few bare patches. Then again, that's prolonged. The fairways burn out a little bit, and obviously at the moment there's a problem with the worm casts and issues with that. So really, you're walking on mud rather than you normally be on grass.
Yeah, no, it's a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, no, yeah. It's a hard. I'm lucky I'm teaching on a range. I can just stick people on a mat every day. The surface is pretty consistent over there.
So what about your side then? Where during the summer, were you? I think a lot of the pros were flat out. Were you flat out?
Yeah, we were busy. Yeah, definitely. And I think the nice thing about it was was busy for a lot of people starting the game. So for obviously you got your core clients there and your people that want to improve and want to play more. But generally, a lot of the client base was people that would normally be playing football or playing rugby or playing other sports. They might have a couple of mates that play golf occasionally. But because it was promoted, they were all like, well, let's get into golf. And it was beginners wanting to learn, which was great, because then you really felt, obviously, your PGA kind of mantra is kind of growing the game. So it really kind of felt like you were getting more people into golf and helping people enjoy it a lot more. Yeah, that's the thing.
No. Busy.
Yeah.
Weird. Yeah, weird 12 months.
It is weird. So we've got a couple of things I wanted to go through, to get some information out for ourselves, have a chat, and also for people listening. Like I say, we're talking a bit about the agronomy from golfers' perspective, because I think it's always something that any golf club's got to do. You look at it from the greenkeeping side and the agronomy of kind of what you need to do to produce a golf course in great condition, and the challenges of obviously then what the members see and what the members want for the year, and trying to balance that and bridge that a little bit. And then again, the extreme conditions and some of the problems you've got, and also what to expect when we come out of lockdown, because we're going to come out of lockdown really kind of still at the trail end of winter, where although the courses have been shut, there's no real growth at the moment. So there's those kind of challenges for it as well. So I guess I'm trying to think, we must have been back when I used to play in the Ealing Scratch.
Yeah, that's
probably 2000.
That, right?
Yeah, there's one year. There was one that had that, and they used to have a brilliant weekend.
Sorry to butt in, but I remember going out and watching you play. Actually, Blimey, you still hit it a long way. Yeah, take it.
I'm getting a bit older now, but I used to be able to move it out there.
I remember standing on the 16th tee. I don't know I think Ricky's on here somewhere, but I just remember standing on the 16th tee. I mean, I played Ealing I've been a member there 32 years, and 16th tee, there's bunkers there that I have to sort of swing it around. There's no way I can carry them off the back tee. And I just remember you standing there like, wow, that's just like that, thinking, just give up. It's depressing, Todd. You don't understand it, but it is depressing when you see someone like myself who has to try and move it. Yeah. You're just taking these hazards out of play.
Well, Ealing's great, and Ealing's obviously it's kind of where you kind of made your name really, and it's a fantastic golf course. And I used to love going to play it, because it's one of those ones where, again, for a long hitter, there's a few short par fours that you kind of think, oh, you know what, I'm going to have a bit of a dig at this. I'm going to take this on. But I think it might have been that year, and it probably is still the same now. Is the Am on the Saturday, the greens are running at about 13.5, and then 36-hole medal on the next day, they were sort of a shade under 14, and you kind of stand there. It's a different kettle of fish trying to, when you get onto that kind of that green speed, and they're the best greens in the country by far. I mean, they're absolutely stunning.
They're good.
And
Because I still play all the spring meetings and stuff like that, the club champs, and as a golfer, we go for it. There's no doubt about it. We just there's no sort of holding back. We just go for it, and you're playing him. It's like self-harm. I've got a little 3-footer or something like that, smelly downhill left to right. You're just petrified, aren't you? Because you just feel like you could free jab from anywhere. But I love playing on them because they're just so challenging, in a way.
And that's
for very
the thing
flat,
now.
boring greens, they can become the most challenging greens.
Yeah. Well, I think the faster you make them, the more slope they're going to have to them. Same as what you've done down at the Neville as well. I mean, now the greens there, they're only sort of pretty small, but where they're that much faster in the summer, then I say there's slopes that, I've been there for 23, 24 years that you never knew about. And I think that's a great thing. Where we talk about at the moment, there's the distance debate in golf, isn't there? People talk about reining the technology in. Well, as soon as you go to something like a US Open, or even for your general golf courses like Ealing, like Neville, that are going to be, they haven't got the land to go any further.
No.
But what they can do is protect the golf course by the areas around the greens, by how fast the greens are, and just making that kind of real skill to the game again, rather than the smash it and bomb it. Because, I mean, you could have the guys on tour, a par 3 could be 270 yards, but if the green's soft, they'll still make birdies.
Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And what I'm seeing at the moment, and I'm really pushing this, is like getting runoffs and making all the entrances wider into the greens, getting all the bunkers, greenside bunkers that became surround bunkers, getting back into greenside bunkers, get the approaches tighter, cut real tight, and having fall offs and stuff like that. I mean, that if you want to challenge the golfer, that all of a sudden is challenging, especially if you start firming your greens up. So I agree with you about the distance thing. Yeah, it's just clubs like Ealing, the Neville, you're limited. And to be honest with you, I don't think you want to go much further. It is what it is, really, and you've got to try and challenge the golfer from another side of it. And I think that's the thing that you can still do with especially the old architecture.
And I think it's also with the old architecture there is, like I say, how you talk about the bunkers and runoffs and stuff. Obviously, having worked at the Neville for a while, you get a golf course that's been there for a while. Again, some greens may have some areas where they puddle up a little bit. Well, I think it was, for people that might know the Neville, but obviously you know the Neville yourself, the right of the fourth, which is a par 3.
Yeah.
The right-hand bunker there, when we dug it out a little bit, actually, once you scrape the sand away, you see how much of the top layer is built up sand over 100 years of bunker shots. Now all of a sudden that becomes a higher ridge. It becomes sort of collection points on the green, and it's not necessarily out of design, it's just how years and years of playing has changed a golf course.
Well, the old architecture, they didn't have drainage in the greens. If they did, it was very few and far between, and it was all contour, moving water off. So if you look at a lot of these old greens, it was moving water from the high points into the low points. And you're right, something like the fourth at the Neville, as the sand has got higher on the bunker lip, you've now created this big puddle in the green because you've got a very low spot in there. So, and that's a challenge for a lot of golf clubs at the moment, because a lot of these, especially when you get these heavy rainfall events, a lot of the water is congregating on the greens now, where in the old architecture, the good architectures like Harry Colt and people like that were moving water that way with contours, spreading the water off the greens basically. So so that's quite a challenge actually. That's what I'm seeing a lot at the moment. A lot of puddling on the greens, which is very, very tough.
Yeah, and I think obviously with the sort of methods that you use, and with your maintenance in spring and autumn, a lot of it is, like I say, deep tining, getting more sand into the greens, allowing them to take a battering, if you like, more and be able to withstand it, rather than, like I say, the Neville has changed completely in probably, let's say, like the last 10 years, and for the better, where the golf course used to be really claustrophobic, really tree lined. All the emphasis, all the danger was off the tee. If you just run into the rough, you were chipping out sideways. You almost had to have your waterproof trousers with you, because you might be backing into some holly somewhere or whatever you might do. Whereas now it's much better. It's opened out a lot more, and the greens are now become the defence. And I think a lot of that goes with that, and you'll probably agree as well, is what a lot of clubs now are catching up with, which is years of kind of woodland maintenance and making sure that the areas away from the sort of in-play area, the general play areas, are maintained.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of the old golf courses have lost their lines, and that's what I mean by that. The lines off the tee and then the lines into the green because of trees. As trees have got bigger and bigger and bigger, all the old features, all the old running, running into the greens, coming off, getting on the right side of the fairway to attack the greens. You especially look at someone like Harry Colt, the way he used to design greens. He used to design them at an angle, so you used to be rewarded by going at the right side of the fairway, whether that's left or right, and that's been lost. But you're absolutely right. Especially the Surrey, Berkshire type of clubs, Sunningdale, the Berkshire, places like that are doing huge amount of woodland management. Hankly Common. I mean, you go there now. I remember playing there, and I remember, the famous. I think it's the 7th or something up the, the par 3 right at the top of of the golf course. That you couldn't see the right hand track when I first played there about 30 years ago. Now you go up there and you can see across the whole golf course. Yeah. But it's come alive, especially. And Walton Heath's another one. Walton Heath's another one that has now got that heathland look again. So I'm big into that, and I agree with you, the Neville, because. It's just become overplanted, like a lot of courses. And, Paul and his army, they're...
Slash and burn team. I'll be a member of those. Doing a great job.
Yeah, they love it. But it needs to be done, and ultimately for golfers, it is very emotive, and I understand that because, I like trees as well. But ultimately, it's a golf course, and the trees in the right place are fine, but trees in the wrong place will ruin a hole or ruin a golf course, basically. So, and that's the reason why a lot of these greens have become so small, is because as the trees got bigger and bigger, they were starting to come into the greens and the tees, and then the greens had to come in as the turf manager started losing turf on the outside edge. So where these greens used to be very big, very wide, they've now become little tiny strips, basically. So that's what I'm seeing a lot. A lot of the old designs are coming back. A lot of the greens. I mean, they used to be huge. I mean, I do work at the Addington, and I think in 100 years they've lost 30% of their greens.
Wow.
The area of their greens, just by whatever that might be, greenkeeping, tree encroachment, stuff like that. So it just shows you, what we need to try and get back to a little bit, really.
Yeah, like I say, it's an evolving thing. I think the thing as well is, especially for a lot of golf clubs, what you might see over, let's say someone like myself, been their member, let's say just over 20 years or so.
Yeah.
What you've seen in that 20 years isn't necessarily what the golf course was designed to be, or what the land kind of warrants. What you get is you kind of see what you've got in a minute, and people get used to that familiarity. So then when things start to happen, when trees might get cut down or things get reshaped or bunkers get moved, whatever it might be, people sort of struggle with change a little bit. But actually, I think if they have that transparency and they're saying, look, this is what we could be, here's our benchmark, if we do this, this is going to improve, that's going to improve. It makes that kind of transition to sort of the old new, if you like, or the new old, whichever way you want to put it, much better.
And I think a lot of it is trust, to me, especially, I mean, Ealing's, when I first went there, used to have, I remember you playing you missed the fairway on the 8th and you're in a hawthorn bush. You're about 10 yards off the fairway and it's like this big hawthorn bush. I think, what's going on here? And then you just miss it, play it left of the 8th green, you're in another hawthorn bush. And thankfully they've all gone. It's just ridiculous what happened. And, and it's so much better to play these courses now. They're just more, as you say, they're less claustrophobic. They're becoming wider. I've noticed the game, fairways are getting wider, everything's getting wider again, where back in, I reckon, probably 10, 20 years ago, everything went very bottlenecks, tight fairways. It all became about very straight hitting, little kinks into the greens, and just, I think, became very boring, if I'm honest. So I think that's a lot of good stuff going on, especially the old Heathland courses. Some of them are looking brilliant at the moment, with the old shapes and stuff like that coming back. So
well, we have an event, there's an event on the PGA sort of schedule. I don't know if you've been up there to Cuddington lately. I mean, they've done some serious work there. I mean, I think talking to the head pro up there a little while ago. I think over 5,000 trees they've taken down.
Wow. Oh, really?
Around there.
Wow.
Again, it used to be very similar, just
Yeah.
wall of trees both sides. It was a premium on just being a straight ball hitter.
Yeah.
But they've got a stunning clubhouse overlooking all like the landscape and
Right.
like the Monopoly board of London, pretty much. But it
Yeah.
was all hidden by trees. So now you cut them all down. You've got a beautiful veranda outside the clubhouse, and the holes play so much better. And again, the greens and the complex of the greens and the surrounds of the greens have chance to grow. So then when you do miss a green, you've got some lush grass to chip off. And I think that's something that, again, I go back to the Neville because it's been my home club for a long time. But where, again, you get the greens running lovely first, then you start to branch out a little bit and say, okay, well, now we need the surrounds and bare areas, if you like, around the greens to get better. Now, the only way we're going to do that is, like you said, give them more light and give them more space to try and get some growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm seeing a lot more irrigation going into these areas as well. So we've got a lot of clubs now watering surrounds. So, and that always used to be biggest golfer's complaint. You just miss a green and then you're in a scabby old lie type thing. So, so a lot more irrigation's going into that with tree removal, stuff like that. So yeah, it's looking all right, actually. A lot of courses are looking so much better, I think, anyway. But some members disagree with that. I understand that.
Yeah. Like I said, if you've got a member, I don't know, 700 members, there's a lot of people who all have the same opinions, who all sort of keep happy. So at the end of the day, like I said, as long as you're showing what your plan is and what your prediction of the future is, and that it's all for the greater good or whatever, then I'm sure that people start to get on board a lot easier. Yeah. So when did you start Ealing? When was sort of your Ealing journey, if you like?
Greenkeeping or golf?
Greenkeeping.
So I went there 2006. I've been a member there since '89. So I joined there as a 15-year-old, and then I did some greenkeeping there. But I had aspirations to turn pro and do all that, and I played amateur golf for some years, and then went and worked at a club called Northwick Park, which Peter McAvoy and Ricky were designing. And then very fortunate to get the course manager's job at Ealing Golf Club, which right place, right time type thing. So I went there in 2006 and, still there really. So, but I say, golf clubs to me are like football clubs. Once you support them, that's it. That's the club basically. So, and I always say that actually, I think the Neville and Ealing, very similar golfers' mentality. Very different, obviously, golf clubs and golfing terrain, but the actual mentality and the amount of good players that have been produced out of both clubs, and I see that a lot in both sides. You got Ricky at Ealing. Bullying everyone to get better, and you got that sort of mentality of get there to play golf and try and improve really. So yeah, good.
No, I think, like I say, certain golf courses with the way I think when you got a golf course similar, they're sort of different but similar, Neville and Ealing, where you've got strategy, you've got to think about it a little bit. It's not just smash it down there and go. You can be a long hitter, but it's knowing when to kind of pull off the gas a little bit, or when to use a certain part of your game, really. So I think it builds that shot making sense.
Yeah, I mean, Ealing is very interesting because you've been there. It's Greater London. It's got the A40. It's got a dirty old river. It's 88 acres, tiny bit of grounds. A lot
of it floods out quite a lot as well.
It hasn't got much known for it as a golf club, a golf course, if I'm honest. But ultimately, for some reason, when I only joined there because of people like Ricky, Jerome O'Shea, Buck Rogers. At that time in '89, Ealing they'd been English champions 3 times and just won the European champions, and everyone was going there, and it was a brilliant place to go in '89 because high percentage of clubs were very snooty, very stuck up. They didn't really make you feel welcome. But you went to Ealing and you were encouraged to practice, you were encouraged to play. It was all about the golf there, and that was the beauty of it. And Ealing's had ups and downs and stuff like that, but we've always managed to produce what we've considered good players. Yazin Ali's a good player, lot of people coming through the ranks. And still with Ricky there as director of golf, driving it on basically. So that's still got that sort of same ethos really. So
Yeah, and I think every time I've been there, I mean, it's a fantastic vibe. Everyone's sort of really, really
Yeah,
friendly. It's always a great place to go. And I think as well, where the golf club's gone on so well is having, like say, Ricky and yourself, who
yeah,
like both for yourself an expert in the industry, but also a good golfer at the same point. So again, you can kind of see it from both sides. So when you're making a decision or when you're looking at changing something, you can kind of see it. You see both edges of the sword rather
yeah.
than going, well, this is what we need to do, and someone else going, well, I'm not so sure about that. You can kind of sort of
Yeah, no, I
weigh it
agree.
up and decide what's right.
I think that's why it's definitely given me an edge in greenkeeping,
Mm.
because ultimately, yeah, I'm a golfer first. I've been playing golf since I was 11 years old. Um, I wanted to be a pro. I didn't really want to be a greenkeeper, if I'm honest. My aspiration was to turn pro and play on the tour and all that sort of stuff. And, then you realise you're not good enough and you've got to get another career. And that was how I fell into greenkeeping. But ultimately, I was a golfer first, greenkeeper second. And the way I look at a golf course is always golf.
Mm.
Whenever I'm going to a course, if I go to a course and I see lovely green greens with beautiful stripes in them, I'm thinking, I just don't want to play here, because I know the greens are going to be very slow and they're going to have no sort of bite to them type thing. So yeah, there's definitely been, from my side, something that's sort of given me the edge, I think, on that. And, Ealing was very much like that. Ricky was the pro at that point when I went in 2006. And, we were very much about, what's going to set Eden apart from our competitors, and ultimately it was going to be the greens in a condition, and that was always going to be our fundamental, and that was my challenge, if I'm honest, to go ahead and sort of nail that. And it's all very well Ricky going, we've got to have the best greens, the fastest greens, stuff like that, but then you actually got to try and produce that, and that's what
Big project to make it happen, isn't it? That's the
well,
thing.
that's right. And that's what I enjoyed. I enjoyed doing it. I
Mm.
enjoyed the whole, having that aim. And then it's a bit like golf, isn't it? Have that aim of what you want to do, whether, it's in the monthly medal or you're playing in the English amateur or something like that, and you've got that aim. And then you put the effort in to try and achieve that aim, really. So that's exactly the same as, the way I looked at it, really, and on the course maintenance side.
Yeah, because a lot of what you do as well with looking at greens and agronomy is very much from a data perspective, isn't it? Taking lots of
Yeah.
samples, looking at sort of, if you sort of explain sort of how you sort of, I guess, look at the health of a green.
Yeah, I mean, so not so long ago, only really 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, but definitely not, I'm thinking back to 2009, 2010. There wasn't much data in greenkeeping. There was, but no one was really using it. And it was sort of frowned upon. It was very much about the art and not the science. And, if you started talking organic matter numbers and, compaction levels, you could just see a greenkeeper just looking at you as if it's like, shut up, basically, we don't care. And now I look back and everyone's doing it. And, it's becoming a bit of a numbers game. And the thing the reason why I did it is because, I went to it in 2006. We were getting good feedback there. I then started putting some articles out there in my industry, in the greenkeeping industry, and caused a bit of a stir. A lot of the hierarchy didn't like it, basically. And the argument back to me at that point was, where's your data? How can you prove this? And I didn't have any proof, basically. I was just doing it on my own and sort of own experiences. So then I started going into the data side. And what I found with the data side is once you look at one thing, you don't really get the answer. All you get is another question. And then you start going to another thing. And then before you know it, you were looking at just one data thing. You're now looking at 12 data things, because there's no real solid answers to a lot of them. So then that's what I found very, intriguing. Ultimately, it was to try and support what I was doing at Ealing, but I then really got into it and started understanding about, thatch and organic matter and nutrient content. And, from a golfer point of view, when we talk about green speeds, we are trying to grow the grass ever so slightly. So we're not trying to stop the grass growing, but we're trying to just get it just every day. Because if we know we get too much grass growing, they're going to be slow. If you go out and play in the mornings at 9 feet, 10 feet, if the grass is growing too fast, it's going to be going down to 8, 9 by the afternoon. So that's what I loved. I really got into that. I remember sitting in lectures and then talking about the magic line, trying to keep the grass plant on the magic line, but no one told me how to do it. It was like, what is this bloody magic line? So then I started looking at nutrient content and how much nitrogen to apply to keep the grass growing, but try and control the growth. And then you have, growth suppressants and all that type of thing, really. But the other thing I found is the more scientific I became, the more basic I became, the more I realized that actually there's no magic answers. It's a bit like your golf game, isn't it, really? You can go to the pro or go to UC, Todd, you can teach me what to do, but you still got to be able to do it, haven't you? You still got to be standing there, you got to make par up the last to get down from whatever 10 to 9 handicap. No one's helping you at that point.
No.
You're on your own, basically. And that's a bit like that with greenkeeping. You've still got to be able to do it. You can have all the data stuff, you can have all the numbers, but you still got to then put that into practice, basically. So
yeah, and it's similar to, like I say, we talking there in the same sort of time frame, really, is when you look at the advancements in coaching as well.
Yeah.
Like I say, now most coaches have got a TrackMan, they've got a flight scope, there's data to it, there's numbers to it, and again, it's not always saying there's one parameter that's causing a problem. But if you can look at 12 and understand how one affects the other, then you can start to say, well, okay, now I'm building a more holistic picture of exactly what's going on here, so you can make the right fix, rather than go, well, I know you look a bit shallow, let's just try and twiddle that a little bit. And again, data gives you something. I think I use data in my coaching very similar to something like a camera would be when it first came out, when you first video in a swing. It's showing you what you're doing. That's not going to lie. It's a factual thing that you can then interpret that data how you want to. But you've got something measurable and you've got something to build on. And like I say, I can imagine for yourself, same as in the greenkeeping industry, that if you've got all these data points and you have the knowledge to understand how one links to the other and how it's going to affect it, then, like you say, you've got a real good approach to what's going to happen, knowing you're going to get success.
I think from the greenkeeper side, it's really helped. It's helped greenkeepers to support the argument of doing agronomic stuff. Yeah. So when greenkeepers going into a meeting, talking to director of greens or greens committees, and just talking about thatch and just talking about things, just saying I need to do this, but don't really have any solid evidence to support that. I felt that was going nowhere. But then all of a sudden you're coming in with hard data, organic matter numbers. You're getting in effect the golfers to buy into it. And the interesting thing I find, because I'm do a lot on social media, and I do a lot of punching big old 20-inch tines into greens, 25 mil tines, and in the old days when I was starting golfers would have been in a hot sweat at that point. Any sort of tining going on, you would just see them coming out, completely panicking. But now I'm actually, you can see them liking it, you see them retweeting it, you can see them going to their golf club. Why are we not doing this? What's going on here? Why are they doing it? We're not. So that, to me, that's like, okay, that's a win. It's getting everyone involved, everyone to try and understand what we're, why we're going out there tining at a certain time. And, in the middle of summer, we're going out there and, treble tining, putting 80 ton of sand out, because ultimately the golfers know now that they will be spot on. There will be a little down period, and we try and keep that down period as tight as we possibly can. But we know that ultimately there's going to be a huge benefit in that, and they're going to enjoy the play on them. So it's good, that side. I'd say it's exactly the same on the golf side. I mean, I always have a go at Rick, because he's, blimey, if you've ever listened with him, if you want someone technical, he's your man. But I always have a bit of a go at him. I get the whole thing. I get the whole thing is good. I like that. So
yeah, what would you say is the biggest changes in, say, the last sort of 20 years of your general maintenance? So like your sort of spring and autumn maintenance in how it's approached.
Sand. Sand has been the best thing that's happened to golf courses, because only 10 years ago, hardly anyone was sanding. Greens were very soft and spongy and just horrible to play on, putt to. And now sand's come in and everything's all of a sudden firmed up. Ball roll is so much better. We're getting on top of our organic matter. So sand's been, one of the best things that has really made a difference to our golf course plays and feel. I think it's a challenge to then branch that out to fairways from a cost point of view and logistics, but definitely on greens and approaches. I'm very keen on making sure the approaches are, up to standard. Machinery without question. The old machinery of when you were doing a turn, it was like an old non-power steering on a car. Now you can turn these mowers, left and right on a 360. You can cut down, Eden goes down to 2 mil. So the fine machinery now has made a huge advance, really. But I'd say from a golfer and from a greenkeeping point of view, the sand applications have made a huge difference to, Eden Golf Club, old clay base, Parkland, soft, wet. That's made a huge difference to their greens. Same as, the Neville had very wet greens, and that's, the more you do that, the better they will become. It's just a never-ending process. So that's what I think.
And I think from a golfer's point of view as well, looking at the change to the Neville is when you're using that sand, the greens are far more playable the day after the maintenance than they ever were before. Normally, you might have a 2 or 3 week period where there's still a few holes. Maybe whatever you were using on top hadn't quite gone in, and they were always a little bit bumpy to putt on. But actually, a lot of the time, especially when you have that sort of micro time, and then I light dusting in between. I remember when I was out in Australia playing, we had a final with a pennant over there on the sandbelt, and I mean, we turned up for a practice round. And we turned up, and I remember going to the guys because I hadn't seen it before. I remember going to the guys going, "What have they done? They put sand all over these greens. Like, we can't putt on it. What, we're playing next week. What's going on?" Turned up next week, and it was just glass. So I'm forewarned that anytime I see a little bit of like a micro time or a verticut and then some sand over it, you're like, right, get ready, everyone. It's going to get quick.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, the interesting thing with sand is, we would, if we've got a big tournament, we would stop the sand in 10 days beforehand, because what we find with sand, you have if you sand on day one, you will then have a negative effect on green speed for about day 2 to 5. Because as the sand then gets into the canopy, it takes the edge off the mowers. You then sharpen them up. Once the sand's in, then all of a sudden you get this huge uplift. So we time it with the sand operations when we've got things going on. But I mean that's so true, because I think what happened, because 30 odd years ago when I started playing, the big thing was hollow coring, and Ealing Golf Club would hollow core their greens. And then 2 months later, they're still pretty rubbish. And then they just get right, and then they hollow core them again. It was just, you had about a week, and then you do another hollow core. And it wore everyone out. And that's why there was a big downturn in aeration, because of that reason, because of the hollow coring and the slow recovery. But over the last 10 years, with the advancement of machinery, spin dressers, good, something like the Pro Core, blimey, if you put that over there, aerate with a sand dressing, the greens are still pure. So our recovery period is so much quicker. That means we get the trust of the golfer. That means we can do more. So we're getting that balance between agronomy and performance, basically. So,
and it's a hard thing to plan for the year, because something that I always say when I was working in the pro shop as well, the same sort of thing is every day of the year is someone's big day. So it's hard to sort of plan when you're going to peak and when you're going to do stuff. There's obviously big competitions, but whether it's a society day, whether it's a club chance, whether it's someone bringing their guests down to show off their golf course, it's always sort of managing what you're doing and trying to keep it as playable as possible. And knowing that, really.
I mean, there's something way back in 2006, something that, I was very lucky at Eden, because Ricky, golf pro, Jerome O'Shea, who, was a good player, won Berkshire, played in the Open. He was on the Greens Committee, and so you were talking to people, got it straight away. And the first thing we did was the start of the year. We put our maintenance weeks in. That was back in 2006. So our maintenance weeks went in, and then the golfing diary went in around that. It wasn't like we put all the the golfing fixtures in, and then we'll give you a week in November to do your your renovations. So we made sure we got it right at that point. That then allowed us to do their sort of heavy work, but made sure that we got the greens. And, that's become a norm now. That's become, golf clubs will have maintenance week, and then that will be in the diary. Societies are not allowed on that day, so it's very controlled. When we're doing any micro tining, there's no reason why, from the 1st of January, we have all our maintenance plans mapped out. There's no reason why the golf pro shop can't know all those dates. So it's got to be, you know, a lot more slick. You know, that's definitely got to be the way, really.
And also remember, I think, like I say, Neville, where the later maintenance week, the autumn one, got bought earlier in the year to August. I remember a lot of people saying to me, "Oh, why are they doing that? We've still got society, we've still got stuff going
Yeah.
on." But then it's the understanding that the recovery is that much quicker, so they're out of play for a far shorter period. You get much better results for what you're doing, and you've still got some great greens to last you into the autumn.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just to give you, for instance, if you're doing it in March, your recovery period is probably 3 to 4 weeks. If you do it in October and you get it wrong, your recovery could be 6 months. You know, if you have a bad October and you get your operation slightly wrong, it could be anywhere from 2, 3 to, you know, it could be 6 months, believe it or not. But in July, late July, early August, 2 weeks maximum. You know, I remember like Eden Golf Club, we would do like a real heavy renovation, and we'd have our club champ 2 weeks after that. You know, and we're fully confident that we will get them right for that, you know, because we know the recovery's there, we know what to do, and then, you know, you just go away and execute it. When the weather's on your side, it's an easy job. But that's another thing I've seen that's happened over the last 10 years. When maintenance week did come in, you know, unfortunately, golfers gave us the first week of November or the middle of October. It's like, yeah, it's great, but, you know, it's raining all the time then.
Yeah.
So that was about 5 years. We did that. And then all of a sudden, we've now got that last week of July, first week of August, which is the absolute best weeks because you've just got full sunlight, full recovery. And then we do all our real heavy donkey agronomic work at that point. So if you go on Twitter at that time, you'll just see a load of holes and a load of sand all over, you know, the UK golf courses, basically.
Do you find, going back to sort of the holocoron as well and the change to vertic drain a bit more, sort of punching holes, would you say that the greens back in the day where they were softer and where you're pulling material out with the holocores, would you find them ever kind of shifting slightly, or the greens moving, where maybe material that was put back on, the fertilizer or whatever was going on, didn't quite fill up all the holes? Would you find little sink areas or anything like that, or was it not so much?
I mean, holocoring, I mean, I've still got courses do holocore. Holocoring is quite a, you know, can be a bit of a motive subject. I just find on old clay greens, it just makes them feel a little bit like they lose their structure a little bit to me. So I do like, you know, deep tining, especially on old greens. Sand-based greens got no problem with holocoring, but the problem with holocoring is the recovery period is that much longer than solid tining. So if you were doing a solid tine in March, your recovery period is going to be probably 2-3 weeks, around that. If you stick holocoring on that, it could be anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, and that just gets too long, and that's the problem with holocoring. So we do look for alternative ways of managing organic matter. That's basically what we're trying to, which is thatch, and that ultimately sand dilutes that. So that's why we make sure we've got our sand levels at the right amount, really. But I still got clubs at holocore. You know, there's one today that had a holocore round. It's still a good operation, but it's got to be timed right ultimately. And that's where your data comes in, because if your organic matter levels are up to standard, the argument is, do you need to holocore? So that's where your data can help or give you the information to make a solid judgment call on that, really. So.
And if we go to sort of thinking more about kind of this year, really, we're talking sort of COVID and that kind of stuff and the lockdowns. What would you say have been the biggest kind of implications for sort of greenkeepers and golf clubs, really? I mean, is it more sort of the staff being furloughed? Is it financial?
That's been, the furlough thing for the staff has been very interesting to see, because the first lockdown, what happened, because the furlough system was quite... didn't have much, it was sort of wasn't flexible. In effect, if you had a team of 6, half the team got furloughed straight away and the other half stayed on. Now, the problem was that pretty much stayed like that for 2 months. So then you had half the team at home bored, but getting obviously government money, and then the other half, you know, just sweating their guts out, you know, for 2 months. So that's caused, I've seen a bit of friction in that. Whereas the last 2 lockdowns have been a lot better. And over the last, the last month, there's been what we call, sort of rota furlough going on. So you'd have half the team working 1 week, they then go on furlough, and then the other team. So that's been a lot fairer. And I think that's been that's been tough. I mean, I would say though that Greenkeeper, I've been fortunate to be in my game. You know, if I was a food and beverage consultant, you know, I'd be bust now. You know, so
Yeah.
I think golf outside and greenkeepers have been very lucky because, yeah, okay, they might have been furloughed at some times, but generally speaking, a lot of them have been working and they've been out in the open. And from a mental standpoint, I think that's helped a hell of a lot of greenkeepers to get through this, you know, this tough period. I think on the maintenance side, a lot of clubs stopped their summer renovations last year because of of the pressure on golf, and that's been quite interesting to see if there's any detrimental effect to that. And, you know, my feeling is, you know, very, very minimal, really. Yeah, it was. I think it was a lot of greenkeepers, like a lot of people, were just worn. They were just worn out by the end of the year. You could just see they'd had enough. You know, just one thing after another. You know, in January and February, by all means, hasn't been, you know, hasn't been pleasurable. But for greenkeepers, generally, I don't think it's been too bad because, as I say, they've been part furloughed. They've been working 1 week, then going off, and so for them, I think they've been quite fortunate to be in the industry that we're in, yeah, compared to other industries for sure.
I think coming out of lockdown, you probably see the difference between certain clubs depending on if they were financially stable to keep all their green stuff on and then undertake projects and do some work in that time, or if, like I say, if others are a bit more on the breadline and they're having to furlough a lot of their staff and just keep up to date with the daily bits. So I think there's going to be a bit of a divide there with clubs depending on how they were at before we went into it.
And also what type of business they are, because I've got clubs that are very you know, commercial businesses that rely heavily on weddings and hospitality. And then I've got private members clubs that, you know, will be less reliant on that. So it really does depend how the golf club is structured, really. So yeah, very interesting side from my side to see how the whole thing works. But I think what I'm saying to greenkeepers at the moment is, you know, just enjoy this period, if I'm honest, because it is nice and quiet. You've probably got hopefully another 2, 3, 4 weeks left. And then when golfers come out, it's going to be mad. It's going to be absolutely mad. So I'm just saying to them, you know, enjoy this period, finish off your projects, and then, you know, work on your your course presentation, really. So.
Well, especially when you've got, I don't know, going to silly season, everything's growing like mad. As soon as you turn around, it needs cutting again. And then you've got a full tee sheet every day of the week because people are itching to go and play golf. Like I say, was it 40% productivity you kind of lose?
40%, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So and that's going to put pressure on teams because, you know, I think a lot of golf clubs are still nervous. So they don't want to overstaff. They're very much holding staff numbers. But the problem is when you get, you know, I mean, Eden Golf Club's roundage went up 49% from the middle of March till the end of October. You stick that amount of roundage on a golf course, the staff's productivity levels are going to, you know, be severely hampered by that. And then that comes down to bums on seats because if you're losing that much productivity, you need more resources to keep the golf course going there. So I think, you know, golf clubs and maintenance teams have to be flexible. And I think things like part-time staff, I think that needs to come into it a bit more. So, you know, if you have staff coming in for 4 hours a day, your productivity levels are going to be greatly enhanced. You know, 2 people coming in the morning or 1 person working the full day, you're going to get far more productivity out of those two part-timers.
And so potentially, if it's a possibility, I can imagine a lot of that sort of seasonal as well, depending on demand.
Yeah, I think so. And also, I think there's going to be quite a lot of labour this spring, summer with universities, you know, coming back. Hospitality is hugely affected, so there could be some labour there. So I think there's going to be some, you know, flexible working on that side.
And I think as well, like we talk about the whole community spirit out of this sort of area as well, this sort of time. And like I say, helping out a little bit during this lockdown and groups like, I mean, they call themselves a Slash and Burn and Neville, but volunteer groups where a golf course is a big area. If you've got a team of 6 people and you've got your main playing areas around that, that's where that kind of woodland management kind of comes in. So I think a lot of clubs that I've seen have got these teams of people that, like I say, generally just want to help out and do good, and I think they're doing some brilliant work.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen a lot of that. You know, a lot of divoting, a lot of members divoting, stuff like that. You know, going a lot of courses, and you see working parties out there. So it's been really good to see. I mean, that's been great, and it's just been really good. That side of it, the community spirit of a golf club, I think has been, really nice to see from my side, because, I'm a sort of a golf club man really. And, to see that has been very, very nice. And, I think I think that will continue. I think people have realised that, going to a golf club, having a, cup of tea and then playing a round of golf with your friends and then having a bit of banter afterwards, quite a nice thing really. So I think a bit more of that will be definitely happening. I think definitely. I think as soon as we get the whistle to go, I think there's going to be a lot of that going out there. So
no, I think it'll be great. How did your handicap go when the change came?
Didn't move.
What's the current handicap? As you well?
I thought I was. I can't remember. I did. It went down the point thing. I think it was something like 1.3, and I'm now down to 0.7. But I thought, because I didn't have a bad year. I didn't. I won a couple of members things at Ealing last year, but I didn't really shoot any sort of. My numbers were just sort of consistent, so I didn't have any real low ones or high ones. So that just kept me the same. So I thought I might get down to scratch again. That was my aim. So, but no, it didn't move. So
how often do you normally get to play?
Probably once a week, really. Normally play on a Saturday. It's normally I've got a bit more enthusiasm, a bit more desire. So I was having a few lessons at the back end of last year. So drive is my Achilles heel. So if I drive it bad, I just Well, they do make me laugh, because when they talk about the mental benefits of playing golf, I'm thinking, blimey, I could when I drive it bad, I could kill someone. I mean, I'm that sort of that you've got that anger. Someone missing a putt, you just go into this rage, don't you, sort of thing. So
the red mist comes down.
I don't know how good mental side of golf it actually is, because it definitely has an effect on me when I'm driving it bad.
Well, I saw on social media, I think it might have been today or yesterday, Brooks Koepka saying, because obviously he's coming back, he's snapped 2 sets of irons the last 2 weeks.
Is he? Oh,
he's gone back, finished the round and done all 14. Got a new set for the next week. I think it was Pebble Beach. Got a new set. Play with them. End of that.
Really?
Obviously, feels a bit embarrassed by it, but it's a bit of a social media story at the moment. Because he's so competitive anyway. Let's say that same sort of thing. It does it to us all. I put a thing on Instagram a little while ago saying about the beer after a round of golf. Is it kind of a reward or therapy? And I think on the poll, it was definitely on the therapy side to say, right, I've done that. Now I need to have a beer just to calm myself down a little bit before I go home.
We've all been there, haven't we?
yeah, definitely. So coming out of lockdown, hopefully, as soon as possible. What would you say to sort of members or golfers to kind of expect, or what to be patient about, or what would you say your advice sort of coming out of lockdown as far as golf courses are concerned?
I think it depends when we come out of lockdown. If we come out of lockdown on the 8th of March, which I think is quite low possibility in my view, but let's say we do, there's a lot of golf clubs that are not going to be ready through just the weather. I mean, we've had, everyone talks about last winter, but we've had 100 mil, 4 inches more rainfall this winter. But because members haven't been playing, they haven't really appreciated that. So a lot of golf courses are very wet. So if we come out in early March, I think it's going to be tough for a few courses. But if we come out at the end of March, I think it'd be fine. Because what I see is that as soon as you start getting the later nights, a bit of wind, a bit of sun, things dry out within a couple of days. So I think early March, be a bit patient, golfers, because also you've got to remember that a lot of courses, or I would say all of my courses, are doing their renovations right at this moment. We're pushing ahead with renovations, not in the best of weather. We've air races out in the snow last week and stuff like that, but we're trying to get the renovations done before golfers come back. So if they come back early March, the greens are not going to be where they should be. But if they come back in the end of March, they'll be fine. So I think early March, just be a bit patient, give it a few weeks, golfers. End of March, you're fine. We're ready to go.
And as you said, with this lockdown, for some golf courses, it actually protects them, because potentially they could even still be closed, because it could be waterlogged as you come out of it, depending on what time of year or what time of March we come out of it.
It's an interesting one, because I go to Canada every couple of years, something like that. And, in North America, they shut down. Come sort of end of October, that's it. Golf shuts, they go skiing and stuff like that. And we play for 12 months of the year. And it'd be interesting if we started this game again, to whether we would have an off season, because when you go into January and February, it's no fun out there, and golf courses are saturated at that point. They get beaten up with traffic, so it'd be interesting to see. But the one thing I saw actually was having a bit of an off season when both sides of the lockdowns, because in the first lockdown, we were coming out the West's winter. That week of the first lockdown, the change in the golf course was just incredible, how it just switched from winter to spring. Unfortunately, then no one's playing there, but it was such a big difference. And I was just thinking, if we can have 2 weeks at the front and the end of the season, what a difference that would make to how a golf course will just literally flip around. It'll never happen, but it's sort of how I'm thinking, sort of thing.
Yeah, and like you say, if we get to if the lockdown happens more end of March rather than the beginning of March, it gives a bit more time for that growing season to kick off. Because as I say, I mean, the growth hasn't happened really since October.
No, absolutely, and I think courses will be good. I think courses are looking good. I mean, I'm walking a lot of courses; they're wet, but grass coverage is very good. All round greens, strong. So I think, I think it'll be. I think it's going to be a good season when we come out of this. I think, it'll be 2 balls to start with. Golf's going to be busy, and if the weather's good, it's going to be the game to go and play, definitely.
Yeah, but like I say, it's been promoted a lot. I had a couple of questions come in before we started, more sort of down the agronomy side. Michael Holiday, by looks at us, how long until all manufacturers of inorganic fertilizers stop producing due to environmental damage?
How long? How long till it happens?
I looked at it, yeah. So how much longer until everything goes pretty organic? I looked at it.
I can't see it in the next decade. So I don't know.
And should there be more of an emphasis on organic and sustainable practices for future greenkeepers?
I mean, it's an interesting topic, this, and it's one that's always in my industry, that talk of organic against inorganic. It's a tough one, if I'm honest, because I've been to organic courses and they're not very good from a turf conditioning point of view. There's weeds everywhere. They're just not up to the same standard. So, I think on the greenkeeping side, if we look back to the products that we were applying 10 years ago to the products that we're applying now, they are far more environmentally friendly than they were 10 years ago. The dosage and the way they're absorbed in the plant. So I think we're far better than we are 10 years ago to where we are now, and more accountable, and the products are a lot safer. But will we ever go totally organic? I don't know. I mean, I think if we did, I think you'll see a dramatic decline in the conditioning of golf courses. I would have, definitely would have thought so. You also got to remember, everything that we put on turf is registered to what you drink. So basically, all our tap water is our products. If there's any sign of any contamination that's going into the natural water source, that product will never get registered in turf or agriculture. And our actual regulatory body is tough, So from an environmental point of view, that's why the turf industry has lost a lot of products, because it was getting found in too high a concentrate in the watercourses, and they just get pulled straight away. There's no mucking around with that. So,
and there's a few products, like I said, we talk about potentially, like say, spraying for worm casts, that kind of stuff, or even I think it was I remember Ian telling me about Chipco used to be for fuzz on the greens and that kind of stuff. Products being taken off, having to find alternative products that can do the job.
No, that's right. I mean, that Chipco green was a chemical called ipidine, and that was a bucketful, so a big, huge bucketful, big bucketful of active ingredient. Now you're spraying a little cup. So the amount of volume, the amount of dosage that we use now to what we were using only 5 years ago. Chipco was around 5 years ago. So it's a big, step forward. But to go fully organic, I just don't see. If the government force it upon you, you have to adapt. But it will have. I can't see how courses are going to still keep the same, look and presentation that the golfers will want. Golfers will have to adapt to that, without doubt.
Yeah, and like I say, but it's your product is the goal. Of course, you're always trying to get it to the best condition you can, and you're going to use the best product that's out there at the time to facilitate that. Really,
it's a balancing act, isn't it? It's a balancing act. Ultimately, that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah. No, perfect. Cool. Well, I think we're just over an hour or so now.
Okay.
So we'll
Normally
wrap it up a little
cuts
bit.
me off in an hour. Does it not cut you off? Normally,
I don't know. Maybe I've got the Midas touch. I don't know. It doesn't.
All right.
I've done a couple of these to run on about an hour and 10, but
Okay.
they're just. I've been trying to do a few. Like I say, a few of these lives just with different people I know in the industry, just to give a bit more information for people about different sides of the industry, different advice from different people. So it's been great to chat and great to sort of pick your brains about a few things. And like I say, I think a lot of the time I look at it from a golfer's perspective, because at the end of the day, golfers are your members and your course is your product. So you've got to find a marriage between the two, really, and keep everyone happy as best you can.
Yeah, no, that's good. Really good. Now, how many of these have you done? You've done
during lockdown, I've been doing, of late, I've been doing kind of one a week. I think I've got about 5 or 6 that I've done so far. And what I'm going to do is, with all the ones I've got, which are on Instagram, I'm actually, there's a YouTube channel that I use just to host some videos and tips and stuff. So I'm going to upload these to there. So then the video will be on a YouTube link rather than just having to sign into Instagram to watch them. So so build a few of those up. So that's been great. I say great to pick your brains and I say look at it from golf perspective. And I think we're all looking forward to getting back out there. And I'll give it a shout. We'll have to get a knock at some point. Get Ricky out the shop.
Yeah, Rick. Yeah, get him out the shop. Yeah, I see he's on it. Still quoting away. He's quite quiet.
He's in there.
Yeah,
I thought he'd be in the net, still hitting his old Max 5 blades. They look stunning.
Exactly. Yeah, that was good, wasn't it? Yeah, saw the old joint power. That was very good. Very reminiscent.
Yeah.
Even I was reminiscent of that one. So, all right, Todd. Good to speak to you. No problem.
Take care. I'll see you soon.
Cheers,
Greg.
Thanks. Bye.